Welcome back on the AM show. Time now for us to get into the newspapers. Well, at least what we can find online. We're going to be sharing those those stories with you on the online portals. But we're also going to have an assessment of this year, the major stories that have taken place and more. And so this is going to be an extended version of the newspaper review in case you didn't catch the start where we introduced that. So it's going to be an extended version of the news review. We're spending about 45 minutes more till the top of the hour, the next hour, I mean. Well, let me just let you know, as always, this segment brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. And here's what they're offering you. If you're a man, you've not checked this year, you've not checked for a long time, probably throughout your life, you've never checked, and you've hit 40 upwards, you need to check your prostate. Anything could happen. You don't want to be caught pants down. If you're a woman, fertility is crucial. You probably want to bear your own children. I mean, there are women who say they don't care. But how about you? Do you care? And if you care about that, then how concerned are you about your fertility? Or do you assume it's a given? That's why you also ought to get yourself checked. Go to Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. Now, for these two screenings, they're offering them for free. Absolutely free. All you have to do is make your way to any of the branches of Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. Let's start with Accra. They're at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. If you're in Kumasi, Kronum Abwehia, behind the Angel Educational Complex, there's Takrady Anaji Estate, there's Temma Community 22, there's Techiman Hanswa and Asiama Nzema. Their call lines are the following: 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. The end to chronic disease. But just the start of the news review. Joining me this morning, I am glad to welcome him aboard. He is a political scientist. He also is director of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. He's in the person of Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. Doc, good morning.
Good morning, Ben. I salute you. I like your shirt.
Merry
Christmas. Happy New Year to you in advance, my brother.
Thank you. I was just going to say Merry Christmas once more and Happy New Year in advance to you as well. May the new year bring us many good things, spiritually and physically. Amen.
And politically.
And politically. Well, I totally agree with you on that. So yes. Today's session is an extraordinary one because we have more time and we can dilate on a number of crucial issues. I don't want to take the wind out of your sail. I want to throw it to you for starters. What are some of the most topical matters you have encountered this year? I mean, we can talk about the three arms of government, Parliament itself on the floor of Parliament. Definitely we'll talk about the imports bill. Then there's the executive itself and its own actions. Of course, the OSP feeds into that. And then the judiciary itself and some bashing it has taken. The rebuttals, the rebuffing of certain comments and everything in between. And generally, our social life as Ghanaians. We can talk about our sports fortunes in sports. Look at our Black Stars now and everything. So I'm throwing the ball into your court. You decide where we start.
Ben, it's you've left me deep in the sea. I don't know where to start.
Start from somewhere.
Yeah, political issues. Come on, man, you have a lot to talk about, and I don't know where to start. But I'll start with basically the general life view of the ordinary man. Because, Ben, my whole life, I want to dedicate it to the fight against injustice, the fight for the needy and the vulnerable, the fight for my society, which I want to build so that one day when I'm not here and gone, I will be proud where I am if I have that opportunity to see what I've left behind. Make sure that I contribute my quota towards the building of the state. For that basis, or on that basis, I really want to start with the needy, the vulnerable, the poor. I am always saddened when I see people who sell in the street.
Yeah.
With their babies at their backs, running after one car, from one car to the other. And you look at the things that they sell. You ask yourself, Are they able to make meaningful livelihood out of what they trade in? And the answer is a big no, because you and I know that that is not the reality. So how do you survive? And this thing has not been a bother to political leaders in this country. It's a shame. It's a shame that people live after independence, that there was the hope that when administration is given to the black man, the Ghanaian, to manage, things will be better off. Is that the situation we see for ourselves? Is that what we bargain for? You see people, from poverty to poverty. One would have expected something different, that from poverty to riches, from poverty to meaningful life. Our leaders have failed us woefully. Woefully. It's so painful. When they leave office in no time, I tell you, they bask in wealth. And my question is, we as an ordinary people, have we seen it? We are also a part to be blamed in this discourse, because when we see all these things, we hide behind the cloak of party politics, ethnicity, religion, and glorify them without punishing them so severely. And it would deter them from doing what they do. We rather fight them. So they think the status quo should be maintained at all times. I think that this must come to us as a way of reflection. Then we reflect well, so that we would stand up and defend ourselves using the rules of the game, and make sure that whoever doesn't work for our interests, that person should not be given any office. We should not shy away from this. It's so difficult for people, and that they sacrifice their own survival for a useless government, for a useless political party, without showing that they are wrong. And that is one of the things that has brought us far. We as elite, you and I, and the rest of the people who are part of this group, we also must take part of the flag. We have done injustice against the state. That, look, we think about our interests and forget them. The poor, the needy, the vulnerable. Why? Why are we like that? We sign contracts that do not inure to the benefit of this country. We make policies that affect only the rich, the poor, the elite, and the educated. The needy and the poor, more often than not, we leave them at the lower level of the ladder. Why? We, as political actors in society, we have allowed, and here I'm talking about government, and particularly I'm directing to this government. This government has sat down for rivers, for streams, for whatever to be destroyed in the name of Galamsey. Meanwhile, we have given the government the power to resist this, deal with this head on. Government has played less service. And today, our country is now saddled with diseases that are as a result of these illegal activities. Now, they are all over in this country. The state have to look for hard money to be able to finance the healthcare needs of these people. And I ask myself, do we have a government, or our government is on sabbatical leave? It's a shame unto this government. It must bow its head in shame. I will not mince words at all. Why do we do this to ourselves? Why? And for me, it's a pain, because look, colonialism played for so many years, and they left this country with our water bodies intact. We started mining after colonial rule, even though we had little problems, but our water bodies were by and large kept intact. Why do we have a government which seems to have no capacity or regard for the capacity of the state? Why? It's very, very unfortunate. It's unfortunate. We always come out and defend the indefensible and support things that do not bode well for our very survival. We always come out with things that do not support us. We tell you that, look, expenditure is too high. Government, reduce it. Government will not budge. We tell you unnecessary use of resources is part and parcel of this government. But hey, government will not listen. The size of government is too big for a poor country such as Ghana. Please shy away from this. Government will not listen. Today, we are in the hands of IMF. And today, anytime the IMF wants us to provide a document to another, we have done that already. Oh, please, we submitted this document and we are in the news, and that the document was submitted and all that. You will not be disciplined unless somebody take a cane and then hold it at the back of your head. That one, you will be disciplined. If we are able to do things right the way we do and right down on time, giving IMF what? Conditionalities and all that. Why didn't we have the time we had opportunity? Why didn't we make the best out of the situation that we avoid going to IMF and all that? And all that. Just to add to the voice of the guy. Said that, look, IMF has not developed any country, and it is a truism. We have to take the bull by the horn and build our own society that will stand the time. I wonder our political leaders that in this period of time that they have to go into themselves and then do the self-introspection, all right, and see where we have gone wrong, and then right the wrongs. Aristotle, the greatest of all, has told us that the unexamined life is not worth living. Yeah. You need to do self-introspection. If we really are a people who want to hand something over from generation to generation, that is my message. Let's do self-introspection. Where we got wrong, we be bold enough and admit our mistakes and then ask for support, because there are already the support system exists. Let's tap into that and build a society. We should avoid discrimination. We should avoid bogus policies that do not bring anything to us. All right? All these things are things that are bottled up, affecting the ordinary Ghanaian. But I tell you, we cannot build any meaningful society when the populace, the demos, democracy, it comes from the word demos, the people at the grassroots, at the peripheries of political society. If we don't bring them along, I'm afraid the best society we can build is nothing but a society that hovers around mobocracy or oligarchy, which do not support anybody. Please, this country has a lot. And my worry was that, and it takes me back to the realms of Ali Mazuri, may he so rest in peace, in his work. Africa is the richest, the poorest. Right? One aspect of his work that he wrote for the Wreath Lecture, The African Condition, one of the that is the richest, yet the poorest. Ghana, I want to single out Ghana. We are rich in all things, yet we are poor. Why? We have leaders who don't care a hoot about how to manage resources effectively for a meaningful life for the ordinary man. We have resources that we misplace them in terms of their usage. We have resources that we don't know what to do with them. We have resources that we abuse and abuse heavily. We are rich. We are rich in mineral, timber. We are rich in arable lands for agricultural purposes. Yet we import tomatoes from a desert area. Yet we are here crying for food. Yet we have no industry that process minerals that we extract from our soils. What a people. But I don't blame the politicians solely, but because the political actors are nothing but a reflection of the bigger political society. We have stayed aloof and as if we don't care a hoot about what is happening. Please, we need to stand up and make sure that the direction of this country is so much important to our lives, and that we are ready to support the cause of meaningful government. And any government that fails to deliver on its promise, we should not hesitate at all and throw that government into the lake of fire using the rule of the game.
You spoke about support. Now we're on the ropes again. We've had to go to the IMF. Let's talk about our economy. Throughout this fourth Republican experiment, the economy has been crucial in our lives. unemployment has been pivotal. Yet these two demons, so to speak, still plague us. Now, if you go back to our IMF history, you would notice that it started right after the ouster of the Osajafo himself, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, in 1966. And since that time, we've gone back to the IMF a whopping 17 times. What do you make of our recent IMF discourse? The fact that we're back with the IMF, now there are taxes being introduced, elements being added, and everything is supposed to be tied to the IMF. Once you're tied to their apron strings, and it's not to say they are bad, but there are things you will be compelled to do. Things that sometimes, like we know, structural adjustment, may not necessarily inure to the benefit of the masses, the broader spectrum of society. But measures you have to put in place in order to get the money from the IMF. And if you don't meet them, you don't get the funding. Here we are again. We're entering an electoral year, and we've seen this before in the past administration. We're entering an electoral year. We are with the IMF. Things are hard. We were just showing you in the course of the news. I don't know whether you followed, but if you go even to the malls, the major malls, Accra Mall, ANC Mall, wherever you go, the crowds turning up there are nothing like you would usually see at Christmas. And in fact, if you go and you observe, you'll see that a lot of people are simply there maybe to take their family out. That is it. Window shopping. People are not buying. If people don't buy, those who are selling don't get the funds they need to do business, to get more into the shop, to be able to expand their businesses. If that happens, it means their families have to also live on a restricted budget. In simple terms, there's no spending. And if there's no spending, the economy will not receive that, jab in the arm for it to be up there, so to speak. No money, no spending, not a good sign by any economics for an economy. But that's where we find ourselves. So I want your reflection on this IMF program. You've seen a number of them throughout your life. IMF. Where we are currently, what do you see? And does it paint any picture that we are being more disciplined on the fiscal level, on the economic level? Whether we're acting as rational sentient beings. And I use my words carefully because, like you said, sometimes political managers act as though they were bereft of sense until we hit the brick wall. Then they come back, and then the IMF must teach us sense. What's your reflection on that?
Ben, God bless you. You have touched on an important aspect of the conversation, expanding the frontiers of this conversation to this level. IMF, we have seen it. It must also be noted that Nkrumah's regime was preparing gradually for the IMF, but for the coup, Nkrumah's regime would have been there. But it gives us an idea that at a point in time, we lose our focus, we lose our direction, and we are not able to continue with policies that we have put in place. And look at the history of IMF. What really triggers all the IMF intervention is two things. One, indiscipline and financial resources. When you lack resources and you are indisciplined, you obviously will go to the IMF. Shouldn't be what with resources, because from material to human resources, we have a lot that will at least give us a breather in what the things that we do here. But hey, we have decided that we will arrogate all these powers to the Bretton Woods institutions to support us. But no country on the surface of the earth has been supported and helped to build that country by the IMF. One is because we are indisciplined. Because if we are disciplined, the very little things that push us to the frontiers of the IMF, we avoid them.
Right.
Take, for instance, the Ghana Integrity Initiative have made it abundantly clear to us that every year we lose 3 billion to corruption.
Those
We are
numbers,
in
those
IMF.
numbers are higher. We are
Yeah,
now being told it's anything between 4 and 6 billion. And the finance minister himself, I remember some time back, maybe a year or 2 years ago, made mention of the
Yes.
fact that indeed we lose those sums of money to corruption, to wastage in the system.
Yes. So even if, let me be generous and then keep it at just 3 billion, is it not 3 billion that we are hailing the IMF and all that? If we are able to plug corruption from our political system, we'll be able to save enough to build a system that we call our own, and then we'll shepherd it to fruition. And that is one. We are in discipline. Look at Auditor General's reports. It's replete with a lot of cases of what? Financial impropriety. Meanwhile, we have so many laws that we have carved with the hope that they would deal with these things. They don't work. And for me, it is one of the problems that we face in this country. We have not sat down to do a reflection on this. If we have what? A lawmaking body that makes law, they've ended their business. All right? It must be enforced. Do we have a law enforcement agency in this country? We do have. But are they working as expected? That
Right.
question you and I cannot answer because we are not seeing much. Go to other jurisdictions. Let me give the case of America. Americans will tell you that their parliament is unique. I was in a program and then this thing came up and I jumped out and I say, hey, hold on a minute. How can American parliament be unique? You perform the same function as all other legislatures do around the world. You say, hey, what American parliament does is that when they make laws, they go out there, see whether the laws are working, so that the lawmaking process to them is complete when they are able to get to the field and see whether the laws are working. Our parliament should take a second look at what they do. All right. I must credit them that they've come out with laws that have really stood the test of time. But of course, there are some with problems. One aspect I want them to look at is to be able to go outside parliament and see whether our laws are working, and then bring actors to book on the matter. That is one surest way that we can deal with some of these problems.
Right.
The issue of what? Because I listened to Mr. Haruna Idrisu
Right.
before he left office. There was a program that the leaders spoke, he and Mr. Chairman Sabunsu and the rest of them. And Haruna admitted that they have really, pampered this government sort of. And that today, the debt burdens and where we are, they believe that part of the blame they must take because they approve these things for them.
Yeah.
I was very happy with that admission. But look, I have a CCL and one senior brother who, made a mistake in the house and said, yes, Kweku. Kweku said, I am sorry to Kofi. And Kofi said, look, sorry doesn't fix a problem.
Right.
And I was fortified, that statement by that 6-year-old boy. He said, sorry doesn't fix a problem. So quickly I jump in and ask him, how do we fix a problem? He said, fix the problem and stop saying sorry. I said, wow, 6 years boy. He said, sorry doesn't fix. We don't want to hear sorry, right? Let us fix the problem, all right? Parliament should fix the problem, that whenever a policy comes to them and they know that deep down in their heart, it will not inure to the benefit of the country, they should muster the courage and throw it away. There are a number of instances where they have done that, but we want to see more of this. That will be able to ensure value for money, and
Right.
it will shepherd us to the promised land. All these things, if you look at the indiscipline, if you extend it, go to the way this government has handled things. People who are accused of corruption, quickly, then the government comes to their rescue. Come and talk about that, especially who are the real drivers of this administration. They come and clear them. And Mr. President has been guilty of this. And he himself is not happy with this. That people call him a clearing agent. All right. But the question is that if he doesn't want that, then he should allow the system to deal with the issues the way they ought to be dealt with. Take yourself out and let the process. And this is where I always see my president getting it wrong, that he always will come in and come and make a statement that doesn't support anything. All right. Allow the system. Institutions are there to rise up towards such occasions. That is the essence of institutions. If you study institutions, the institutions are the building blocks of every government. And all these things are part and parcel of what? The process. We ourselves have also what? Contributed to undermining the very system that we have. To the extent that, look, we work against productivity. We, loot the state as individuals. And then the little that come to the state, we want to find a means of what? Taking a share that does not belong to us. All these things have affected and has contributed to the indiscipline I'm talking about. The resources, if you don't have resources, you go to IMF. We have what? Resources, except that we have not managed them what? Prudently. So lack of prudence in what? Management of resources, put together with what? Indiscipline, has sent it to IMF. And today, we go there. And if you look at governments that we have in this republic, you realize that they will always what? Have IMF as what their last resort when they mismanage the economy, and you are talking to them, they will not listen. And then in the long run, they push you there. Okay. The difficulties that we are going to face from there, because they have so much, they don't feel it. And we are there feeling the pinch. And I believe that all these things are things, if we are a serious people, we'll be able to put our foot down and said, enough of this. We are not going to the IMF. The little that we have, let's manage it. I tell you, this country will change and change for the better.
Let me take a few messages that we've got coming through. Then I'll read something quick from the 2023 investment climate statements, the U.S. Department of State, when it comes to Ghana and how they picture us. And then, Doc, we shall take a quick look at myjoyonline.com and graphiconline.com and cap off the conversation. But let me start with those comments that have come through. This one says, the reason we're in the mess we're in is a result of the greedy people we have as leaders. The financial crimes being committed against Ghana smells to the highest heavens. When you have square pegs in round holes, this is what you get. And you say the finance minister will stop at nothing until Ghana's economy is totally destroyed. That's what you say. Yabua Wisdom says Ghana as a nation needs a disciplined leader. We are blessed with both human and natural resources, but not leaders. That's what he sees. Keith Harris disagrees with you. He says Aristotle is the greatest, and he disagrees. He says your race is the greatest since you gave birth to all civilizations. So instead of calling Aristotle the greatest, you should be calling the greatest people from your race. I know where this is going, but that's over to you if you choose to respond to it, Doc. Raymond Abiu says the surest way of fixing the problem is by arresting Ken Ofori-Atta and his deputies to account to the Ghanaian people how they utilized the billions of dollars this government borrowed over the past 7 years. Of course, any arrest or anything of that sort has to be in accordance with the law. So you cannot just get up and go and arrest people. But I understand where your sentiments lie. Now, if you look at the executive summary of the U.S. Department of State, the 2023 investment climate statements on Ghana. This is what they say. I'm skipping to paragraphs 2 and 3. The economy remains highly dependent on the export of primary commodities such as gold, cocoa, and oil, and consequently is vulnerable to slowdowns in the global economy and commodity price shocks, but also benefits from high oil and gold prices. In general, Ghana's investment prospects are in a flux. It's not stable. As the government of Ghana seeks to attract FDI, foreign direct investment, in agro-processing, mining, and manufacturing, but investor confidence is relatively low. It has made attracting foreign direct investment a priority to support its industrialization plans. Then let me skip to this portion. Challenges to Ghana's economy include high government debt. And we know this administration has added north of 500 billion to our kitty. Particularly energy sector debt, low revenue mobilization, corruption, and inefficient state-owned enterprises. Ghana has a population of 31 million with over 14 million potential taxpayers, but only 6 million of whom file their annual tax returns. As Ghana looks to spur economic recovery and move beyond dependence on foreign aid, it must develop a solid domestic revenue base while also reducing government expenditure. Any quick reflections on that? This is what the Americans, from where they sit, are saying. And these are the very things that always leave us on the ropes when it comes to our economy. Yet our leaders, like someone said in a message, we are blessed with all the natural resources, but we are not blessed with good leaders. Your take, Doc.
I think the document is nothing but a true reflection of what is happening in this country. If you look at the things that they said, let me just tease out the primary commodities. I listened and I were attention to my president when he was campaigning. He admitted that the Gadgetsburg economy doesn't help anybody and that there was the need to build from that. So industries will come and turn primary commodities into finished products. That was a game changer. The message really resonated with people and people gave their all to the president. Today, very little we hear about industries. Why? And we have not taken the trouble to demand answers that, look, Mr. President, you said this. Is that what we are seeing? I listened to Kennedy Japan when he was campaigning, and he said that he has gone round this country, 1D, 1F. He has not seen much. That was very, very instructive, especially given who he is and the position he occupies in the NPP. Why are we where we are? Countries that have been able to develop, industries have been killed, where people with less employable skills, they get in and they find something to do. People with certain skills get there and then get jobs. And that they take all manner of people. We know this. Why are we doing something wrong? Is it preaching of virtues and practicing vice? Is that the case that we are having in this country? Look at low investment, investor confidence. Yes, if you are corrupt, if you have debt around your neck, if you can't manage your resources very well, your water bodies are polluted and the rest of them, obviously, investors will shy away from a country like this because they really want to, first of all, get their investment after they put it on the ground. And then because they work with people, they want all other things to work very well. Once they detect that there are problems, one point or another, they want to shy away from the system. This country is so much attractive to any human being who want to invest here, provided we are able to position it very well and do the ABCDs, get them right. Once we get the basis right, I can tell you, we will have a difficulty of managing investors in this country. But is that what we are seeing now? And sometimes I ask myself, we have all manner of professional scholars in this country, but these problems keep on occurring. And we ask ourselves, do we have solution for them or not? Look at the issue of debt. What government said about NDC, when NDC was in office, that really the government was not virtually thinking right. And that it has, negotiated this government's life with debt and a whole lot of things. Look, only to come to office and do worse. When the alarm bells were sounding, the government did not listen. Scholars were talking all over.
Right.
We had them discussing these issues. Like, look, the way we are going, a time will come, we cannot sustain it. Here you are. It all fell on deaf ears, and we are back to square one. All these things militate against the smooth running of a state. A government that doesn't want to listen It's a government that takes you to where you don't belong. And that is the problem we have. Low revenue mobilization. Yes, because corruption is in there. So how do you, get the necessary revenue you want? The capacity of the state relative to what? Revenue mobilization. And here I am talking about the extractive capacity. It's completely what? Weak. And that is the manifestation we are seeing. People take revenue that belong to the state and pocket them. People, abuse them. Money that is in the kitty of government, they abuse them. Government officials themselves mismanage state resources, and government doesn't want to talk about it. Individuals abuse. So it's a mix of what? Problems. State-owned enterprises are not working. If you go to the political economy of this country, one of the things that drove the NLC into what? Closing all the state-owned enterprises was the issue that they were not performing. So one would have thought that from 1966 onwards, we would have learned our lessons well and improve our state-owned enterprises. The few that existed after the 66 coup, what have we done? The story has been what? Bad stories from bad to what? Worse. Why do we want to what? Have a society like that? State-owned enterprises are critical.
Right.
You and I are alive to the literature around state-owned enterprises and how they help build the Eastern European societies and all that. If we don't want to what? Make use of them, let's throw all of them away and build into our system something that works. But if we want to maintain them, let us ensure for value for money. All these things affected the size of government.
And maybe that'll be the final point. I just want to wrap with you on the online portals. So talk about the size of government and then we'll proceed from there.
The size of government. Government at the beginning of this administration, when it started 125 ministers or so, people talk. And what we heard from the government was that wait for results. Where are the results?
The president said he was a man in a hurry and he needed many people to execute the work.
I'm sure Mr. President still is in a hurry. But where are the results? In politics, it's nothing but contest of ideas and referendum of your work. What work have they done to show us that they are really in a hurry? And that where are the results? Today, the size of the government, when we talk, they say, look at it, they compare, they do this, it's the least of orders. Recently, I heard the General Secretary of MPP, in that non-performing ministers must be kicked out. And I asked myself, when did they get this awareness? All right. But I did say, if you go through our conversation one of the days, I said that, look, we are talking about this, and Mr. President will not hear. The reality will dawn on him one day. And I am happy that the General Secretary of the party come face to face with the terms of today, that incompetent leaders must be thrown out of government and make sure that we have people who can deliver. Government is what? Based on record, and is based on what? Performance. So if there is a non-performing person in the government, why do you keep him? Are you keeping him for the sake of keeping him, or you want results?
Okay.
And I think government must be results-oriented.
All right. Just a quick one on education, because you're an academic yourself. When you look at education, basic level, tertiary level, basic secondary, there's free SHS, and then the tertiary level. I need that reflection in a minute. And it's also on the back of, I see on My Joy Online, Mahama challenges recent WASSCE results. He says some invigilators relax on the job as teachers have found aiding students in answering questions, and all of that compromised the quality of education. In fact, this came after the Education Minister, Dr. Yaosei Educhum, announced that this year's results were the best since 2015. But at what exactly is happening that is creating the best? Is it truly because these students are so much better? What is the reflection when they get to the tertiary level? For the first time, I hear of students who supposedly gave AI answers, artificial intelligence answers, senior high school. So obviously there was interference, and whether it's the teachers, headmasters, whichever other people aided some of these students. That is not to also take away from the fact that they also did well. What is your quick reflection on that? And I think we can wrap it there in a minute.
Yes, Ben, I wish your team would do us a little favor by projecting the score, the WASI results, because I've not taken the trouble to look at it. I was just busy doing a few things. Because every year they will come out, and I must admit that I've not seen the results. They are saying it's good and all that. Every year they tell us.
In
this.
English, for example, there was a pass rate of over 70%, those scoring from A1 to C6. But believe you me, if you pick any, even some of the best of these students who are scoring A1, and you assess them orally in written form, and that is just one. I usually talk about English because it's one of the areas I have taught and I'm also passionate about. But you could pick any of those areas, and it reflects. My colleagues who are lecturers at the university, they'll tell you that, look, these students that come in, their levels of so many things are so poor that sometimes we must spend time that we should have been using to teach them the core matter, teaching them other things, just to bring them up to par.
And I just want to just draw the attention to something. Let them take the figures, the real figures, those who sat for a particular paper, and then do the mathematics and look at those who pass from A1 up to C6, and look at those who fell out of this. That is where the trouble is. Always they come with statistics. They will tell you, 40%. But when you go into that, and I must admit that this one I've not seen that, you will realize that sometimes you have over 200,000 people who have failed a particular course. Then you ask yourself, how do you praise yourself when you have about 200 people who have failed a course? All right. Something is basically wrong. Then you go into, and here I want you to look at what their core courses. By the time you do this mathematics, you realize that, hey, even though statistically they are giving you certain figures, but a quantum of people who are failing the course, which is so important, the core course, that once you fail one, you can progress to the next level of your academic career. Right. You are out. That is where our attention is. But I will also share in the issue that the AI technology is now affecting quality of examination. I was happy WAEC brought it out, but that should not be the end. In the university, we have all these things. That's why we have the system that checks the plagiarism and the rest.
Yeah.
One of the things I conduct a number of objective tests, and students. I met a student and said, "Say, this AI thing. Sometimes, look, we get answers from, but your paper, we are not able to do that." And I asked why. Do you know why? I said more theoretical question. More practical question. So the questions that when you go online or use the system, you won't find any answer. The blend, theory and practice, work together. So the way we handle these things, I want WAEC to focus the attention on the two, theory and practice, put together. That at the end of the day, in spite of the technology, let us not say that AI is not good. It's good if we want to employ them effectively. But in examination, we don't need them. We need a raw brain so that we can build the best out of that. Let's make sure that that AI system, all right, we set questions, students will sit down and think, and they will not have the answer. Issue of invigilation and all that. If we want to get their acts together, invigilation will be key. How did people get access to AI technology? It means that supervision was very, very, very poor. Was very, very poor. And you need to work all these bases. Once you get your base right, you'll be able to lessen some of this problem. And we need to also strengthen the syllable, teaching of the subject matter. Sometimes I tell you, I pose questions to people who have studied government in secondary school at my level 100 class. And I realize that there are problems. There are real problems. That is not to say that the teachers are not doing well in where they find themselves. A large number of them are doing their best. But we need to up our game so that we get nothing but the best for this country.
All right. Doc, we're so grateful that you took the time to join us. In fact, this final message, Abdullahi Freeman says, "I always love listening to your guest, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. He speaks to the facts always, and that's why we keep bringing you on." Doc, we're grateful. If Ishapa, Amen. Amen.
I wish Ghanaians the best in this season, and then let us approach the new year with a reflection that we want to serve our society well. We want to build a society that we can be proud of, a society we call our own. That is all.
Thank you, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. He's a political scientist, also director of the Center for European Studies. He joined us for this extensive conversation. Happy birthday coming from Linda Doreen Ashong to Akwesi Pepra Odum, branch manager of Republic Bank Spintex, is from Linda, AC Cheryl, and Barbara, your UCC sisters. And then, Happy New Year and blessed birthday to Noel of Adenta from your mom, Mary Ando of Snit, Kolebu branch. So happy birthday to Akwesi Pepra Odum and Noel of Adenta. The final one I'll do, I didn't know, if you're not aware of this, it could be pretty tricky for you. You know, Saturday banking used to go on until COVID happened, and then many people just dropped off. It wasn't happening anymore. Just this past Saturday, I had to do something at the bank, and I found out that all these branches that online you would find were open were actually not open. Only one was open. ADB on the Ring Road Central stretch, close to Paloma, but on the other end. So I want to salute Godfred Ejapong, Vida Wampa, and Vida Ankoma. All three of you, Godfred Ejapong, Vida Wampa, and Vida Ankoma. ADB Ring Road Central staff. Thank you for the good work you're doing for God and country. Before we get into sports, Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic helping us to bring you this segment. They are offering you, if you're a man, prostate screening for free. If you're a woman, fertility screening for free. Locate them here in Accra at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi Chronomabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex, the Stakrade Anaji Estate, there's Tema Community 22, there's Techiman Hansua, and the Siama and Zema. If you'd like to call them, these are the two numbers you can reach them on. 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Adams Wadi, I appreciate your comment. I am very grateful. It's a flattering comment. I'm grateful. I'll not read it on air, but thank you so much. God bless you. On that note, we settle for sports up next.